is going on, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy Football Quick Hits with Casey Smith. I'm your host, Millsy. We got the one, the only, the man himself, the living legend in the flesh.
What's going on, Millsy?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm all right.
Coming off a pretty damn good week after last week.
Yeah, feeling good. Hopefully I can keep the momentum up. Make some good picks for the playoffs here.
That's it. And now we're in the, this is the real battlegrounds here. This is where the cream rises to the top.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Let's get right into this bad boy. I'm going to start off in this one. We're going to ask you, instead of doing the teams that we did last week, we're just going to do between three people, three pairings of people. Who would you rather start? So first up, Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. Tampa Bay's home against Indianapolis.
I like Chris Godwin in this one. I just think he'll probably get more catches than Mike Evans, I'm thinking, so over the middle. And Colts have a pretty stingy defense, so I bet they'll take away the deep ball, which Mike Evans has been thriving with this year. So I'm looking for Chris Godwin underneath a lot more this game.
Well, let's hope Mike Evans for that stretch run to the playoffs. All right, next we have Jamison Crowder or Robby Anderson. Jets are at home against Miami.
I'm going to take Robby Anderson. I just think Jamison Crowder the last 2 weeks has taken a backseat really in the offense, even though they haven't really moved the ball. Robby's definitely been seeing a lot more targets, playing a lot better. So I think that's going to continue this week against a pretty crappy secondary that they can exploit.
I think this one's going to be a close one. I think they both get a touchdown this week.
I mean, it'll definitely be, yeah. I think it'll still be really close between them.
I think we see Crowder back to what he was a little earlier in the season. But next up, Ryan Tannehill. They're not on the same team, but Ryan Tannehill or Derek Carr. Tennessee is at Oakland.
I'm definitely going to start Tannehill in this one just because I just don't think you can trust Derek Carr, especially in that run-first offense. He's had a couple of crappy weeks the last two, and Tannehill's actually looked pretty decent for the Titans. He's putting up good fantasy numbers, so I'd definitely start him.
All right. Move on to starter sit. First up, Kareem Hunt versus Cincinnati.
I'm going to start Kareem Hunt this week. Cincinnati is one of the worst run Ds in the league, so I could definitely see Cleveland running the ball a lot, especially with Baker hurting. So I'd start him this week.
Courtland Sutton at Houston.
I'd start him too. Houston secondary has been pretty bad this year, except they've been playing better the last few weeks. Even that being said, I think Courtland Sutton is going to see enough targets to be effective in this game and put up good fantasy numbers.
Christian Kirk at home against Pittsburgh.
I really didn't like what I saw from Arizona's offense last week, so I would definitely sit Kirk against Pittsburgh, against the pretty hard defense there. Who knows what the Cardinals could do.
Is this the week? Is this the Sony Michel week? Going up at home against Kansas City. You starting them or sitting them?
I really don't think so. I just think that Kansas City is going to score a lot of points, so it's going to put the running game pretty backseat, I think, for the Patriots. Kind of like what happened to them last week against the Texans. I could see happening again, and maybe possibly their first loss at home in how long? 20-something games, I think. But yeah, I could definitely see that happening. So I would advise not to start Sony Michel this week.
All right, so we'll keep it in the same game, same team. Mohamed Sanu, do you start him this week?
I would start him because if he's healthy enough to play and he doesn't get hurt, I expect him to gobble up at least 5 catches this week. They're going to be throwing a lot to keep up with Kansas City, I think. So I could see him having a decent game.
I like that. I like Sanu this week also. Kenyan Drake at home against Pittsburgh.
I'm definitely going to sit Drake once again. I just really don't like the Cardinals' offense, especially with all their running backs they have there, especially against a stingy defense. I'm pretty sure they're playing in Pittsburgh. Am I right?
No, it's in Arizona.
Oh, it's in Arizona? All right, well, I still think the same thing, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, that really doesn't change much for me. The only thing I worry about a little bit is Pittsburgh, that East Coast team having to go west. Usually doesn't end well if East has to come west and vice versa.
I mean, I'll tell you one thing, though. Pittsburgh is the team that could be looking at a trap game this week for sure.
And they are starting Devlin Hodges, and Kyler Murray's been explosive at times this year.
Yeah, I'm just really the Cardinals put a bad taste in my mouth last week, so I'm gonna stick with Pittsburgh being the better team.
And the last one, you starting or sitting Myles Sanders against the Giants?
I'm gonna start Myles Sanders just because it's the Giants and anything can happen. Their defense they'll give up plenty of catches, I'm sure, underneath. Probably give up a touchdown at some point to them. So I would definitely start him this week.
All right, that's it for start or sit. Now, for over-unders last week, you were 5-1. The only incorrect pick was Cooper Kupp versus Baltimore. Now, if we were doing full point PPR, you would have been 4-2.
Oof.
Devontae
It was
Adams
close. It was close. Yeah, Devontae Adams was close.
was he? We had him at over under 16, and he put up
Yeah,
15.8.
yeah.
So
Still a
technically,
lot of points, but technically I was right.
it wasn't. There was no over there. So other than that, I mean, other than Cooper Kupp, 5-1 last week. But starting off this week with a bang, Lamar Jackson traveling to Buffalo, over under 21.
I'm gonna say over for Lamar Jackson. I see no reason why he shouldn't. He's been putting up crazy numbers so far, especially like these last couple of weeks, especially against good defenses too. So I expect him to go over once again.
Really, I think this is
Yeah.
a tough matchup for him. I think Buffalo at home could be the team to stymie him, but we'll definitely see on Sunday. Pat Mahomes at New England, over under 20.
I'm gonna say over here too for Pat Mahomes. I just think it's gonna be a high scoring game, so I definitely see him scoring a couple touchdowns at least. So definitely we'll put up over 20.
Melvin Gordon at Jacksonville,
I'm
over
gonna say
under
uh,
13.3.
I'm gonna say over for Melvin Gordon too. The last few weeks, Jacksonville's been at the bottom of the league in run defense, so I expect the Chargers to come out run heavy, especially with Philip Rivers struggling this year. So definitely over.
Odell Beckham Jr. versus Cincinnati, over under 12.7.
I'm gonna say under here for Odell. I mean, they just haven't looked good getting him the ball, and unless he gets a touchdown, I don't think he gets over for sure. I can see them getting up to and just running the ball against a really bad Cincinnati team. So I'm gonna go under for Odell.
Stay in that same game. Joe Mixon at Cleveland, over under 11.6.
I'm gonna go over for Joe Mixon. I think he has a good chance to get in the end zone on the ground against Cleveland. And I think early they'll stick to the run enough to get him some production. And he's also good in the pass game, too. So he's not going to just disappear when Cincinnati's losing.
I don't know. I'm not. Mixon's been a severe disappointment this year. It's hard to trust.
No, I know. He's very hard to trust.
Leonard Fournette versus the Chargers, over under 16 and a half.
I'm going to go under just because I think the Chargers are coming in with a hard defense and been playing a lot better. And there's a lot of dysfunction going on right now with the Jaguars and that offense. So, and the Chargers know one thing: no matter what, they're gonna have to stop the run in order to make whoever's the quarterback throwing the ball. Which this week will be Gardner Minshew, but we'll
You
see
don't
what.
think Minshew gets him 5 or 6 catches?
Uh, I mean, I think he could definitely, but unless he's getting in the end zone, I don't think those catches are gonna put him on over 16.
Fair enough. That is a decent amount of fantasy points.
Yeah,
Here's a tough one. Alvin Kamara versus San Francisco. So it's in New Orleans. Over under 17 fantasy points.
yeah. I had to think about this one for a little bit. I ended up going with under though, just because I think 17 is a lot of points, and I mean the 49ers have one of the better defenses in the league. So I could see him not having a good game if they focus on stopping him basically and seeing what else the team can do. So I don't think he's going to have like a crazy explosive game, but I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised if he had 14 or 15 points, but I don't think he'll be over 17.
And we'll end it with Cooper Kupp versus Seattle. Over under 15 fantasy points.
I'm actually going to take the over for Cooper Kupp at 15. I just think that last time they played, he had 17 targets, so they're definitely focusing him. And Seattle's stronger on the outside, I think, so Cooper Kupp could be decent over the middle, especially if he gets a couple of those linebacker matchups on him. He could be really effective.
I like Cooper Kupp this week. I think he gets it back on track. Like you said, working that middle of the field. I think on the perimeter, it's going to be a little less Robert Woods. A lot. I think it has a lot to do with Jared Goff too. That he's struggling to get the ball to the sideline.
Yeah,
He's
I
struggling
agree.
to get the ball downfield.
Over the middle of the field more.
Exactly. Those short passes to Kupp, those crossing routes over the middle.
Yep.
Well, that's going to do it. That's it for fantasy football quick hits with Casey Smith.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
That's it.
I know we missed last week, but because of Thanksgiving festivities, but it's
Yeah,
nice to be back.
we're back this week. The three games kind of threw it all off, and then Thanksgiving kind of threw it. You know what? We're back, baby. That's all that
We're
matters.
back.
And we'll be back again next week.